Beneath Florida's sparkling sunshine and picturesque palm trees, a quiet catastrophe is unfolding. The dream of paradise that once promised endless ocean views, thriving suburbs, and a life of leisure is now hanging by a thread, teetering dangerously close to a housing collapse. As 2025 presses on, thousands of newly built homes, once gleaming symbols of prosperity, now sit hauntingly vacant. Property values are tumbling by tens of thousands, with some cities experiencing price drops exceeding 15%. At the heart of this crisis lies a brutal combination: mortgage rates that continue to climb and insurance premiums that are skyrocketing beyond belief, making affordability nearly impossible for thousands of families. Builders are scrambling, slashing prices, and offering incentives that once seemed unimaginable, like knocking $25,000 off the sticker price just to move inventory. Yet, even these desperate measures aren't enough. Incomes cannot keep pace with $3,200 monthly mortgage payments and $6,000 insurance bills. What was once marketed as the Florida dream is quickly unraveling into a nightmare. Welcome to the Sunshine State's darkest truth. These aren't just any neighborhoods. These are the 10 fastest collapsing housing markets in Florida, where paradise is slipping away faster than ever before. Number 10. Fort Lauderdale. Once dubbed the Venice of America, Fort Lauderdale thrived with its dazzling beaches, intricate canals, and booming yachting industry. Luxury migration and foreign investment drove prices to unsustainable highs, peaking at a median of $680,000 in 2022. Detached from local incomes, this surge was fueled almost entirely by wealthy out-of-state buyers and remote workers chasing exclusivity. But now, the tide has turned. Inventory is soaring, particularly in luxury condos and waterfront homes, and prices have already fallen back to around $555,000, a sharp $125,000 or 18.4% drop. Insurance costs, now ranging from $10,000 to $15,000 annually, are crushing owners. Fort Lauderdale's speculative boom has collapsed into a painful reset, making it a key city to watch as the downturn deepens. Number 9. Ocala. Once a pandemic-era migration darling, Ocala's real estate boom has backfired. After soaring to $379,254 in 2022, median home prices have fallen to $321,224 in 2025, a $58,000 or 15.3% decline. Overbuilding is the biggest culprit. Entire subdivisions were built overnight, and now for sale signs gather dust as demand dries up. Pending sales are collapsing, with over 30% falling through in the last quarter alone. Lenders are tightening credit requirements, buyers are vanishing, and foreclosures are surging, up 60% year over year. For homeowners stuck with peak-era mortgages and rising insurance costs, the dream of Ocala is turning into a financial nightmare. Number 8. Cape Coral. Once celebrated as one of Florida's fastest rising stars, Cape Coral was the poster child of the Gulf Coast boom. A city defined by its 400 miles of sparkling canals, low taxes, and an irresistible promise of affordability that attracted retirees, families, and remote workers in droves during the pandemic-era frenzy. Just a few short years ago, Cape Coral's housing market was in a feeding frenzy, with homes selling before construction even finished, and median prices soaring from under $280,000 pre-pandemic to a peak of $430,000 in early 2022. But the story in 2025 is very different. Home values have tumbled to around $372,000, wiping out nearly $58,000 in equity and marking a sharp 13.5% decline in just over 2 years. A collapse that has left many owners underwater. Builders who once dictated the market are now panicking, slashing asking prices by $40,000 to $70,000, offering upgrades or covering closing costs just to lure hesitant buyers. But even these desperate incentives are struggling to gain traction. The affordability crisis is crushing. At today's 7% mortgage rates, a $370,000 home requires more than $2,600 a month in principal and interest. A brutal jump from under $1,800 just a few years back. And that's before factoring in property taxes, now averaging nearly $4,000 a year. Insurance premiums, once manageable at $2,400 annually, have exploded to more than $5,800 per household, fueled by catastrophic hurricane risks and the collapse of local insurers, leaving homeowners either financially suffocated or uninsurable altogether. Investor activity that once drove demand has completely dried up, as rental returns vanish and risk factors mount. While first-time buyers, the lifeblood of any sustainable market, are fleeing in record numbers, unable to qualify under today's higher lending standards. Out-of-state migration, which powered Cape Coral's boom as thousands relocated for sunshine and value, has slowed dramatically, leaving behind a glut of inventory. What was once a golden child of Florida real estate has now become a sobering cautionary tale, where the very elements that built its meteoric rise, affordability, desirability, and growth, have turned into liabilities under the crushing weight of higher borrowing costs, surging taxes, insurance chaos, and collapsing demand. Number 7. Tampa. Tampa was once the shining star of Florida's real estate boom, a fast-growing Gulf Coast city that combined strong job growth, a thriving economy, and a lifestyle magnetism that drew retirees, remote workers, and investors alike, becoming one of the most dynamic housing markets in the state during the early 2020s. Between 2021 and 2022, demand surged dramatically as Wall Street-backed investors, tech-savvy remote workers, and affluent newcomers flocked to the city seeking both lifestyle and profit, driving average home prices to an unsustainable $383,410. The rapid appreciation created intense bidding wars, leaving local wages far behind and inflating home values beyond realistic affordability. But by 2025, the once red-hot market will have cooled sharply. Prices have dipped to around $360,130, a sign that Tampa is grappling with both overvaluation and oversupply. And the most alarming signal is the explosion in housing inventory, which has risen by more than 55% in just 1 year, leaving homes that once sold in under 2 weeks languishing on the market for 75 to 90 days. The short-term rental sector, which had provided additional investment-driven demand through thousands of Airbnb and vacation properties, is now saturated, with many landlords unloading their units into the resale market, further intensifying the supply glut. Financing has become a major barrier, with mortgage rates hovering near 7.5%, effectively pricing out many first-time and middle-income buyers and compounding the slowdown. Builders, who once thrived on rapid development, are now left with unsold inventory, and sellers are forced to offer aggressive incentives, including covering closing costs or offering rate buydowns, just to attract buyers. Tampa's rapid rise, fueled by a mix of genuine population growth and speculative investment, has left it particularly exposed to correction. And unless buyer confidence returns or interest rates ease significantly, this city could become one of Florida's most dramatic housing correction stories, highlighting how quickly a once booming market can stall under the pressures of overbuilding, inflated prices, and shifting demand. Number 6. Sarasota. Sarasota, long celebrated for its white sand beaches, vibrant art scene, and appeal to affluent retirees, became a hotspot during Florida's housing boom, attracting high-end investors and second home buyers seeking a luxurious coastal lifestyle. But by 2025, the city is experiencing a dramatic market correction that reflects the fragility of speculative growth. Its rapid price escalation, fueled largely by out-of-state wealth, drove median home values far above local economic fundamentals, peaking at roughly 38% over fair market value in 2022. And this aggressive overvaluation prompted a surge in new construction to meet investor demand, swelling inventory to levels not seen since 2015. Homes that once sold for $1.2 million are now struggling to move at $975,000 as buyers have become more selective and mortgage rates topping 6.75% make luxury purchases significantly more expensive. Insurance costs, particularly for waterfront properties, have skyrocketed to $8,000 to $10,000 annually, adding yet another layer of financial pressure that makes ownership daunting even for affluent buyers. The combination of overbuilding, inflated pricing, high interest rates, and soaring insurance has softened demand, leaving developers and homeowners scrambling to attract buyers with incentives or price reductions. Sarasota's market, once riding the wave of pandemic-era luxury speculation, now serves as a cautionary tale of what happens when rapid appreciation outpaces affordability and local economic fundamentals, illustrating how even the most desirable coastal cities are vulnerable to sharp corrections when speculative fervor cools and systemic pressures like high insurance and interest rates converge. Number 5. Jacksonville. Jacksonville, the largest city by land area in the continental United States, experienced a housing surge between 2020 and 2022 that made it one of Florida's most attractive real estate markets, drawing in families, retirees, and remote workers. With its mix of suburban charm, growing job market, and comparatively affordable coastal access. But by 2025, the city has shifted dramatically from boom to bust. Median home prices, which reached a high of $410,000 in mid-2022, have now fallen to approximately $357,000, representing a painful $53,000 decline, or nearly 13%, while inventory has exploded, with active listings soaring from fewer than 4,500 to almost 9,000. A staggering increase of over 100% that has left homes lingering on the market for 40 to 60 days, compared to just 10 days previously. Overbuilding in suburbs like Middleburg and Oakleaf has flooded the market with unsold homes, creating relentless downward pressure on prices, while mortgage rates hovering around 7% have made affordability an immense challenge for local buyers. Property taxes have climbed sharply to an average of $3,800 annually as assessments catch up with previous price spikes. And insurance costs, particularly for flood-prone neighborhoods near the St. Johns River, have doubled to roughly $4,200, further straining household budgets. The combination of rapidly rising costs, oversupply, and slowed demand has left sellers scrambling with price cuts and cash incentives just to attract buyers. And first-time homebuyers are increasingly priced out, while investor activity has cooled dramatically. What was once a shining example of pandemic-era migration success has turned into a cautionary tale. Jacksonville now reflects the harsh realities of overvaluation, affordability crises, and market saturation, highlighting how quickly a previously thriving housing market can stall and even regress when growth outpaces economic fundamentals. Number 4. Port St. Lucie. Known as one of Florida's most family-friendly and fast-growing cities, Port St. Lucie saw a remarkable housing surge during the pandemic era, fueled by a combination of affordable coastal living, strong local amenities, and significant in-migration from out-of-state buyers. But by 2025, the market is showing clear signs of stress and slowing growth. Median home prices, which peaked at $4,000 or $5,100 in 2022, have now fallen to around just over 7% decline, signaling that the rapid appreciation was beginning to outpace both demand and economic fundamentals. The first sign of trouble has been a collapse in buyer demand, particularly from out-of-state investors who were previously key drivers of the city's boom, as higher mortgage rates and rising costs have cooled enthusiasm. Pending sales are falling apart at alarming rates, with nearly 1 in 3 deals collapsing due to financing challenges, low appraisals, or buyer hesitation, highlighting the fragility of the market. HOA fees, especially in newer developments, have surged dramatically, from around $80 to $200 per month, to cover escalating insurance premiums, storm-related maintenance, and infrastructure upgrades, further straining homeowners' budgets. Homes are taking significantly longer to sell, with days on market climbing from 24 in 2022 to over 65 in 2025, forcing sellers to offer concessions, rate buy-downs, or steep discounts to attract buyers. While the market is not yet in freefall, these combined pressures, slowing demand, rising costs, extended selling periods, and a cooling migration influx, signal that Port St. Lucie's housing engine is losing momentum. And unless interest rates decline or local economic growth accelerates, this could mark the beginning of a deeper and more sustained correction in the city's once red-hot housing market. Number 3. Miami. Miami, the iconic global city known for its luxury tourism, vibrant culture, and continuous international investment, experienced one of Florida's most intense housing booms over the past several years, fueled by a surge of out-of-state buyers, foreign investors, and demand for high-end second homes. But by 2025, the market is facing a sharp correction that underscores the vulnerabilities of rapid, speculation-driven growth. Median home prices across the Tri-County region peaked near $540,000 in 2022, while condos soared to $420,000, driven by relentless demand from international capital and a booming tourism sector. Yet both sectors are now undergoing dramatic declines. Single-family homes have fallen to approximately $450,000, a 16.7% drop, while condo prices have plummeted to $320,000, a staggering 23.8% decline. The city faces a perfect storm of market pressures, including an unprecedented surge in inventory. Condo listings alone rising from 9,000 in 2022 to nearly 17,000 by mid-2025, skyrocketing insurance premiums that add thousands annually to ownership costs, and mortgage rates hovering around 7%, which have priced many buyers out of the market. Rental prices, once strong, are softening as investors flood the resale market, leaving high-end properties unsold and occupancy rates declining. Miami's reliance on speculative demand for luxury condos and investment properties has amplified its vulnerability. The rapid construction during the boom has created a glut that now sits largely unabsorbed, while affordability challenges and rising ownership costs push both domestic and international buyers to pause or exit. Once considered almost recession-proof due to its global appeal, Miami is now a cautionary tale of how quickly even the most desirable housing markets can falter when fueled by speculative growth, high leverage, and systemic risks like soaring insurance costs and interest rates, showing that beneath the city's glamorous skyline, the real estate market is quietly but profoundly weakening. Number 2. Fort Myers. Once the epicenter of Florida's pandemic-era housing boom, Fort Myers saw extraordinary price growth that made it one of the state's most talked-about real estate markets, attracting retirees, remote workers, and investors seeking seasonal demand and lifestyle appeal. But by 2025, the city is facing one of the fastest market collapses in Florida. Median home prices, which surged from $270,000 in 2019 to a staggering $425,000 in 2021, a jaw-dropping 57% increase, have now dropped to around $367,000, representing a $58,000 or 13.6% correction, signaling the abrupt halt of the city's gold rush. Housing inventory has exploded, with active listings more than doubling from fewer than 1,500 in early 2022 to over 3,800 by mid-2025, leaving many new homes unsold for months as builders drastically overestimated post-pandemic demand. Days on market have tripled, from 20 to nearly 65, forcing sellers to reduce prices by $20,000 to $50,000 and offer desperate incentives such as free appliances or interest rate buy-downs just to entice buyers. Insurance premiums, already a major concern after Hurricane Ian, have skyrocketed from $2,800 in 2020 to over $6,200 in 2025, while property taxes now average around $4,000 annually, significantly raising the cost of ownership. Mortgage rates hovering near 7% have further eroded affordability, with monthly payments on a typical $350,000 home rising from $1,800 to over $2,600. Far outpacing the median household income of just under $60,000. The combination of overbuilding, spiking insurance costs, rising taxes, and higher borrowing rates has left local buyers struggling to keep pace, investors pulling back, and the once booming Fort Myers housing market entering a period of painful correction with the potential for further declines on the horizon. Number 1. Northport. Northport has earned the unfortunate distinction of being Florida's fastest collapsing housing market in 2025. A dramatic reversal for a city that experienced one of the most explosive booms during the pandemic era, when median home prices skyrocketed from $260,000 in 2020 to an eye-watering $450,000 by mid-2022. A monumental 73% increase driven by speculative demand, rapid in-migration, and a surge in new construction. However, that rapid ascent has now given way to a painful collapse, with prices dropping to approximately $377,000 by 2025, a $73,000 or 16.2% decline, the largest year-over-year drop in the state. Overbuilding has been a central factor in Northport's downturn, as developers flooded the market with thousands of new single-family homes from 2021 to 2023 in anticipation of continued demand, causing active listings to explode from under 900 in early 2022 to over 2,300 by mid-2025, an increase of 156%, leaving many homes unsold for 70 days or more, compared to just a week during the peak. Builders are now forced to offer steep discounts of $40,000 to $60,000 and even cover closing costs to move inventory. while mortgage rates around 7% have crushed affordability, raising monthly payments on a $387,000 home to nearly $2,650, up from roughly $1,500 during the pandemic boom. Insurance costs, amplified by heightened hurricane risk and remapped flood zones, have jumped from about $2,200 in 2020 to over $5,800 in 2025, and property taxes average $4,200, further straining household budgets. Rental prices, which peaked at $2,350 in 2023, have fallen dramatically to just $250, signaling collapsing rental returns for investors. The combination of overbuilding, soaring financing costs, skyrocketing insurance, and collapsing rental yields has turned Northport from a pandemic-era growth star into a cautionary tale of how quickly a once-hot market can implode, making it a critical example of Florida's broader housing corrections and the risks that speculative, rapid growth markets face when demand fails to keep pace with supply and costs surge beyond affordability. Florida's housing market is undergoing a dramatic reckoning. From Cape Coral to Miami, from family-friendly suburbs to glittering coastal metros, the same homes that surged in value just 2 years ago are now sinking fast. Overbuilding, inflated pricing, crushing insurance premiums, and collapsing demand have left buyers and homeowners trapped in a new reality. The dream of Florida hasn't disappeared, but it has been distorted. For those looking to buy in 2025, caution is more important than ever. Not every palm tree shades a paradise. Some stand over markets that may not recover for years. So if this breakdown has helped you understand the risks beneath Florida's sunshine, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Sometimes the smartest investment isn't knowing where to buy, it's knowing where not to.